Okay, right, we now live. Let's just record it. Right, hello everybody, this is Debbie, from Teacher Success Coach with another episode of homeschooling / home education, depending on which country you're in, and basically sharing journeys on what it is like to homeschool or home educate your children. And the fact that you don't have to be an educator, i.e. a teacher. You are the best person to educate your children or child because you know them. They come from you and you know what their likes and dislikes are. So, in terms of homeschooling, home educating, you are the best person, the most qualified. So here we are with another episode of homeschooling, and we have Nadia, who's going to introduce herself, tell us what country she come from, etc., and then share her journey with us, because as we know, everybody's journey is different and we learn something from everybody's journey, So thank you very much for coming on and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really excited to talk to everyone about my journey. So I'm Nadia. I live in Reading in the UK. We started our homeschooling journey technically at the beginning of last summer when we decided to pull my daughter out of school. It was basically, she went into school for reception and year one. And we were kind of seeing that there was a pattern with her school report, which was that she lacked focus. And as far as I was concerned, I thought all children lacked focus. I just thought that's what children did. I only have one child, so I didn't have really anyone to kind of compare with. But I just thought that that's what children did. They just can't focus, can't concentrate because they're still quite brand new and they're children. Sorry, dropped my phone during a live. So anyway, we kind of spoke to the teacher and said, what's the strategy going forward? How can we help us focus? What can we do as parents to support you as teachers? I thought that I was doing the right thing in asking, is there any extra work that we can do at home? What should we do? And it basically transpired that they basically determined that they would sit her at the back of the classroom. So I was a little bit confused about the step that was taken to sit her at the back, because apparently she wasn't disruptive enough to warrant the teacher's attention. I was then told that she would need a special educational needs assessment. And I thought, fantastic. If she has any sort of learning issue, we want to be able to support her. We want to be able to give her the extra time and the extra attention that she needs to be able to have a great educational experience, because I grew up having a fantastic experience at school, and I wanted her to have the same, but it just wasn't very forthcoming. And I was just saying to Debbie before we came live that from my understanding, when it comes to kind of child psychology and the development of the brain, things tend to start setting around, when I say setting, they tend to start fixing a little bit more about the age of 7. So you kind of will know what kind of child you have. Do you have a child that has a fixed mindset, or do you have a child that has a really open mindset that's like really open to learning new things? And my child has a fixed mindset. So she's a very can't do that, won't do that, don't want to do that kind of attitude. So I was like, what's happening, And I think what I realized is that she just wasn't ready for school. She wasn't ready for mainstream school. And they were not able to give her those really basic building blocks. For example, 13, 14, 15, 16, what's the next number? She couldn't tell me what the next number was. So I was like, oh, okay, so she's 6 and surely we would be learning these things. But she didn't know the next number. So I was really alarmed and really panicked. And I said to my husband, what do you say about me pulling her out for a year? And he was very unsure. He was like, oh no, let's wait until Christmas, keep her in until Christmas, see how she does, maybe it's just her age. And I was like, no, we're wasting time. Let me give her to me for a year. And let me see, we won't burn bridges with the school. As far as I'm concerned, she developed in so many other ways at school. So we're really grateful for what the school did for her. But I think when it came to not hard academic, but basic things like what's the next number, what comes after 16, she should really be showing some level of confidence in, but there was just no confidence at all. So we thought maybe she has dyscalculia, which is, I think that's how you say it. It's like an actual phobia of mathematics. So we're like, oh, maybe it's this. How can we best support her? But anyway, push come to shove, I just deregistered her in the summer, last summer, and then we started homeschooling in September. And I have to say that the journey's been very up and down. So I have, she was about 6.5 when we started homeschooling, and she has changed so much, even just from last September. She, you know, her mathematics has come on great. Her reading is fantastic. We do cookery, you know, we do lots and lots of different activities. There's lots of social activities. There's a great homeschooling community here in Reading. And as I said, it is very up and down. It's not always, you know, fairies and rainbows. There's lots of tears. There's lots of chats, you know, there's lots of mindset chats and lots of cuddles. And actually there are some days where I say, do you know what, let's just go for a walk. We'll just go for a walk in the forest today and just be mindful and just, you know, listen to the wind or look at the trees or paddle in the stream, you know, and we'll just do that and then maybe come home and have a talk. But my journey is I really enjoyed the journey because I've got to spend so much more time with my daughter. And I think I saw on Facebook the other day, you spend like 25,000 extra hours with your child if you homeschool them. And I'm really enjoying it so far.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you for that, because when you actually spoke about that some days you decide, you know what, we don't have to do anything. Let's go for a walk and let's go, you know, listen to the wind, etc. You know, that is so powerful in terms of education, because those are the things the children have no time to do, because all we're doing is pushing contents at them. Yeah. Right? And they're not even taking in the contents. They're just feeling overwhelmed. They don't even know how to separate the contents and use aspect of it for reality. Because they're just, it's like opening the bottle. That's what we did, and just pumping. And it's not going anywhere. So the fact that you actually say, you know, took your daughter on a walk and you guys just talk, you know, through talking, you're learning. And there's so much you're learning while talking. And people don't realize the beauty and the power of those things. Absolutely. And when you were talking, right, what came to mind was, oh my goodness, you know, my post students, they've got exams at the end of this year, May month, and they're so overwhelmed and they're not even taking in anything. They're like little robots. Yeah. Because all that is happening is they're so panicking, they're so overwhelmed, they cannot separate, you know, they cannot separate reality at all. And they don't even know what they could take to bring into their lives or how they could learn the contents. Yeah. Because all we're doing is just pushing it and it's not going anywhere. One student came to me and said to them, she said, Miss, I just feel, and I'm looking at her. I said, overwhelmed, isn't it? She said, yes, Miss, I just don't know if I'm going or coming. I'm all over the place. I said, I know that you've got essay for me. Instead of doing the 3 essays, just do one for me. Just do the smallest one first. Because they don't know where to turn. Because education, they're not enjoying it. Yeah. Same for my daughter. She was just not enjoying it. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And although I still, even though she still struggles with mathematics, it's only my belief, and you know, lots of parents do unschooling, which is where they'll completely just take the guide from the child. But for my daughter and for what works for our family is that I need her to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yes. So we do a little bit, instead of doing the 45 minutes, which they would do at school, we do 20 minutes a day. That's it, 5 days a week, 20 minutes, sometimes 15, you know, and it's done. We do it straight after breakfast and it's done. So I totally understand the overwhelm, but as you say, it's about breaking it down into smaller pieces, and it's a lot, isn't it? I mean, I grew up in England. I've been through the education system here. I had a great experience, but I have a very good memory, and I have to say it is about performing, and it's a memory. It is very much a memory test, but that's just my opinion. Yes. I have a photographic memory and I did really well at school. But ask me about, you know, what I learned at school and I can't remember now. So exactly. I wasn't
passionate about it and I wasn't interested. So yeah.
Exactly. You see, that's what school does. It
Yeah,
actually programs the children for them to get the results.
exactly. Yeah.
And that's what it does. And you must have fit in nicely into the system.
Oh, I did.
Because
Yeah, I did really well.
exactly. Because you see, you know how to do it, so you just did it.
Yeah.
But if children are critical thinkers, which your child is, although she's got fixed mindset, she is not programmed. That's the thing about it. And you just need to support however her learning goes.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So she, for example, she has a huge interest in aeroplanes.
Oh,
So
God.
yeah, for a 6-year-old girl, I was like, okay, this is interesting. So, we've talked about all the STEM things that, the science, the technology, the engineering, and the mathematics around aeroplanes, flight, air pressure, these kinds of things. And although she's probably not really completely understanding me, it's something she's interested in.
Yeah.
So I say, okay, that's fine. Let's talk about aeroplanes today.
Exactly. And the fact that she's interested in it,
yeah,
although she don't fully understand it, she's going to want to do more and more and more.
exactly.
And eventually she's going to understand it more and more and more.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is you're leading to her passion.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful. Who's saying the next 2 years she might have a different passion? That's okay.
Yeah,
but at least you actually supported the passion she has right now. School doesn't do that. They just fit them into these boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we tried to follow the national curriculum. So, for example, Egypt and ancient Greece and Romans. So we tried Egypt and we did like a good few weeks on it, but she's just not interested yet. And I'm saying yet because I know she will eventually be interested, but now is not the time. She's more interested in aeroplanes and the history of flight. And, we've talked about Icarus and the story, of Greece, of when he flew too close to the sun and his wings melted. And, we talked about ego and why he did that. And and then obviously then it will all, the puzzle pieces will eventually fit together, hopefully. But I keep on talking to her about humans and how amazing humans are and how we come up with all these things because we dreamed to fly and now we do. We build our own reality, and that's what's so amazing about humans and being human. So it's just telling her that she is part of something incredible, and to be human is pretty incredible. But I think we forget that.
Yes. Because you see, at school we're too busy teaching contents.
Yes. Yeah.
We don't have time to teach anything else other than contents. And that's the thing about it, because you're told when you go into the school, you haven't got time to do any other mindfulness, etc. Because I'm coming from a psychological perspective. So I would do mindfulness, I would do daily quotes, I would do listening to classical music. But in some schools that they don't have time for that.
No.
Get on with the contents. And I cannot get on with the contents when I have children are all over the place because they have such a big baggage on the back. I can't teach because they're not hearing me.
Yeah.
That's the thing about it.
Yeah.
Whereas homeschooling would offer that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because especially, I mean, I've written a list of things that I wanted to talk to you about, but we're pretty much done by lunchtime. So by lunchtime we're done because we start straight after breakfast, which is 7:30. So we finish breakfast by 7:30. So from 7:30 till 12, we're pretty much doing all our learning, because I've noticed that after lunch, my daughter does not want to learn anything. And I don't know how you feel after you've eaten lunch, but I feel really tired. So I can only imagine that my little one's feeling really tired. So how on earth could she have spent an extra 3 hours at school and learn, actually retained any sort of information? I can't imagine she did. I can't remember why I'm telling you this now. Sorry, Debbie. I've gone off topic.
No, that's fine. That's fine. It's okay. I can connect that because this is so real. Because we are not teaching children according to their needs, right? When the children come out, when they come back into classroom after lunchtime or after break time, they are high as a kite. After lunchtime, forget it. They don't want to learn. They're looking out of the window, that the behavior is disruptive. I'm teaching you 10, 12, and 13. 13 is going to university in the end of this year. And the year 13 students, when they come back from lunch, they're swinging on the table. They're disruptive. They want to dance, all kind of rubbish, right?
Yeah.
When you look at that, you
Yeah.
cannot blame them, you know, because it depends on what they had in the food. If
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
high this food, they're sluggish. They just want to sleep. And it's like, oh, miss, can we have a brain break? You guys have just come in.
Yeah.
Miss, can we go to the toilet? But you just had a lunch break. And
Yeah.
it's like all this disruptive behavior. So therefore, when you look at that, you see that we're not teaching the children according to their needs. You are teaching your child according to how she's ready to learn, but we're not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah,
You see,
absolutely.
that's some of the beauty if you're homeschooling your children. You know what they need and when they need it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Yeah. And I know that my daughter's a visual learner, so I can put a picture in front of her. I cannot put a block of words in front of her. She just cannot. She just gets so overwhelmed. I think the words just jump out and dance around. She can't read them. But if I put a YouTube video on and then we read a book with a few words, she's like, oh, okay. Oh, I get this. And then she's able to retain, number one, retain, which is great for her. And number two, actually understand and connect all the dots. So you're absolutely right. I mean, we all learn differently. And I have no idea how you as a teacher are able to cater for 30 children who all probably have different learning styles, might not have slept well the night before, aren't eating properly, you know, all these things, and how you're able to manage that. I only have one child, so
well, to be honest about it, any teacher that's saying they're managing effectively, they're telling lies to themselves. Sorry, I am not managing effectively. I am managing the best I can, because there is no way.
Yeah.
Because there is no way I could meet all my students' learning needs and learning style. I use as many as I can in terms of different strategies and different techniques. Yeah. Because at least I want to catch as many of them as I can. So in one lesson, I would do mind map, I would do reading, I would do discussion, I would do group exercise, I would do summary and note taking. So I might do 7 different things in my lesson. Because I'm trying to catch them. But I also know there's some teachers that just do one aspect of it. But I cannot blame them, because maybe that's what they're able to do.
Yeah.
But for me, I believe that I need, because learning is an active process. And as a psychologist, I am using all the active process I can, because I want you, when you leave my class, to at least learn one thing and at least remember one thing, you know. But we cannot cater for all the needs of our students. We do as much as we can. Yeah. You know what? When you actually home educate, you actually know your child and your children. We don't know the learning style of all our students. We might have an idea. Yeah. Because what might work for that child may not work for them tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And as you say, I know my daughter through and through. I know her better than she knows herself. You know, she'll give me a cue, for example. I like when she starts getting tired, she because she can't sit down. My daughter cannot sit. This is another thing. I don't know how she coped at school, because she cannot sit still, including while she's eating her dinner. She literally rocks her bum all the time. But it's giving her that. It seems to be like a bit of an outlet for her. So she'll go off and have a bit of a jiggle somewhere, and then she needs to come back and sit down with me. But no teacher is going to let her stand up and stretch, or, you know, or I don't know, whatever she goes to do. But no teacher is going to let her do that. Whereas I know it will help her focus better. Or it's the fact that she's hungry, or she's tired, or she needs a break, you know, or let's just call it a day now and not do any more reading or whatever. So there's all these, like, being able to read your child and kind of see where they are. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I have no idea how you cater for so many students. Being able to read all of them.
True.
Yeah.
It is so true though, because someone, you know, as much as you know, you don't want them to be too disruptive, because you've got the rest of the student to deal with. At the same time, you also want them to be comfortable as possible. But it's not always possible when you have all this. It's like my year 10, I think I've got 29 of them. And I'm thinking, well, in some classes I've had 30, etc. And I'm thinking, my goodness, when they all start identifying their needs, you're stuck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
With homeschooling, it's a different thing.
So,
So,
she's here because she's actually going to bed.
Hello, darling.
You're in your pajamas. Come say hello then. This is my daughter.
Hello.
Do you like homeschool? Do you like being at home? Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah. Why? Why do you like being at home with mom?
Why do you like being at home with me? Because she loves me.
Oh, that's so lovely, though. That's so lovely. Good night. Safe dreams.
Good night, my darling. Go on. Have I go down now, please? Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's interesting, though, because at that, at that age, some of the things that is missing. That's why in places like Sweden, children don't start school until they're 7. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because did you hear what she said? She loved being with mommy. She loved mommy. And those are some of the things we overlooked. We just send them to school. It's like a production line. It's like a factory, that's it. And it's interesting because although Sweden children start school much later, academically, they're world leaders.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense. Yeah. I don't know why we don't follow a more kind of Scandinavian kind of method when it clearly works so well. Exactly. I don't if it worked, why? But then we don't. I guess we don't have anything in place for children, because obviously as parents we need to go back to work, and I know that I'm in a very privileged position to be at home with her, but both parents do generally have to go to work. So what can the government do to support parents up until the age of 7, as you say? There's no facility for kids yet. It's difficult.
That is so true, isn't it? That is so true. It's like parents having to survive, so therefore have no choice. It's like the earlier you're trying to get rid of them, the better for you, because you're going back to work straight away. And it's kind of sad because when the thing is, we are not listening to the needs of the children.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be honest, she wasn't really ready to go to school. Like, she's a real homebody and she loves being at home with me. And I think to separate us was difficult for both of us. But we just are very close. We just have a very close relationship. We've always been very close. So I think, it's just different for every parent.
Yeah, it is. It is. You might find some parents who, in terms of having no choice.
Yeah.
It's a survival mechanism. Correct, so therefore they need the children or the child to go off to school so they could actually go to work in order to, to survive. Yeah. And it's quite a sad thing when that is the main focus, which means that the children who are the future generation, we're not even taking care of them because we don't know how to.
Yeah.
Which is quite sad.
You
say you have some questions or some answers. You want to share them?
Yeah, sure. So so your first question was obviously how has your journey been as a home educator? You sent me a few questions and I've written a few notes. So I mean, as I said at the beginning, it is very up and down. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say it's so lovely and it's great that we can be at home together. We have probably I'd say of late more difficult, more tears than smiles. Recently, but I always focus on lots of mindset activities with my daughter. We do lots of mindfulness. So as I say, I know when she needs to take a break. If I just think, okay, do you know what, she's had a really hard day today, she's cried a lot. I kind of think, right, tomorrow we're just going to bake a cake and go for a walk. Like, we're not doing no school, and then literally, but obviously in baking a cake there is a lot of learning in that. There's a lot of learning in going for a food shop, because then we'll look at the prices and we'll look at pounds and pennies. And, you know, as you said before, it's all learning. She'll help me to do a load of washing, and then she'll help me put it in the dryer, or she might hang it up with me outside in the garden. This year, we're going to be doing a big vegetable patch. So we've propagated green chilies, 5 different types of tomatoes, radishes. So she's learning, you know, that we're going to have our own little vegetable patch, how to run a home, how to cook a meal that's nutritious. So I feel, just in answer to your first question, which was how's your journey been as a home educator, I have to say one word to summarize it is just very empowering. I feel really empowered to have been able to take control back of my daughter's education, because for her, she just was not ready for mainstream school. At such a young age, she wasn't ready to go.
Yeah. As you say, not every child ready at the same time.
Yeah,
they have different needs, and they learn at different speed, etc.
Yeah.
And your child just wasn't ready to go yet. It wasn't right for her yet.
Whereas my nephew, who's a year younger, totally ready, sharp, you know, totally gets things, really, you know, knows all his maths. Whereas my daughter just not ready, and she's older. She just gets totally overwhelmed. So some kids are ready and some kids aren't, and she just happened to be one that wasn't. And I feel really, as I said, empowered to have been able to take the opportunity to, number one, spend more time with her, and number two, really, you know, dial it back and say, let's learn our numbers up to 20 again, you know, and just go, it's okay. Do you know what? It doesn't matter. And we do a lot of work on mindset stuff, as I say, but it's also things about making mistakes, because she said, Mummy, you're grown up, that means you don't make mistakes. And I was like, excuse me, where did you get that from? Because I make mistakes all the time. I said, I'm 40 years old, you're only 6. And I said, just remember, I still make mistakes even though I'm older than you. It doesn't I don't want her putting me on a pedestal because I'm older than her, and that she thinks I know everything. I said to her, I don't know. Nobody knows everything, and that's I find that quite comforting, that we're all just going, I don't know. And I said, it's okay to not know sometimes. So it's just constantly, you know, saying to her that we're all learning every day. Mummy's learning, you know, so don't feel bad that you made a mistake, because I make mistakes all the time. I didn't come from a background like that. I came from a background where, you know, the elders had to be respected and they were never wrong. And so I always put them on a pedestal, and and then you do realize that we're only human in the end.
It's fascinating. What you say is so very true. And that's something I say in my classroom, that it's okay to make mistakes. It doesn't matter. When I ask you a question, if you give me a wrong answer, that's fine, because I just want you to talk. I want you to have the confidence to talk. And, you know, this is something that I feel more teachers and more parents need to start owning, that as human beings, we'll always make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes. And that's not a problem with making mistakes. You know, I was in one school that the so-called head of department saying to me that I should not tell the student that I didn't know. I said, really? I said, I didn't know. So why should I pretend? I said, I'm not one for pretending. I said, I didn't know. I said, you know, when we say that to students, they connect even more with us, because they realize that we mess up. And I said to my students, I mess up. There's something I'm messing up in front of them. And I'm saying to them, look, you guys know when it comes to computer, it is not my forte, right? And I don't know what to do. So some of you who know the computer more than I do, come on, put it down for me. I'm struggling. What's wrong with you guys? Come on. You know, so they need to.
I think it's a culture thing as well, isn't it? Because I think we have a culture where we live in that making mistakes is shameful. Like, you should be ashamed that you made a mistake. And I'm trying to, because I've had a lot of mental health issues in my own life, just trying to not be perfect, because I've always tried to be I have a real perfectionistic attitude, you know, a real type A personality, and things just had to be very, very perfect. But I made myself ill. I made myself really ill trying to be perfect, not making mistakes. And actually, I had a breakthrough, and I thought, do you know what? Is it good enough? Is my work good enough? Because if it's good enough, I'm not going to kill myself over trying to make something perfect. And if I make a mistake, it's okay. It's okay to make a mistake, because no one died, no one got hurt. It's okay. So that's, you know, I do say to my daughter when she makes a mistake, although it's funny, the other day she goes, "It's all right, mummy, it's okay to make mistakes." And I said, yeah, you can't keep on making the same mistake. You've got to learn from your mistakes.
Yes, yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
yeah. You can't keep making the same one. You have to learn. So it was quite funny that she
Exactly.
goes, "It's okay, I
Yeah.
made a mistake." I was like,
That's good because you see, I said to my student, there's nothing called perfection. So don't
exactly,
even try.
no
It
point.
does not exist.
No,
Because what you might think is perfect for someone else is not.
exactly.
So you're doing the best your ability, and that's it.
That's enough. Yeah. I say to myself now, did I do my best? Yes, fine, it's enough. Because yeah,
Exactly.
I made
Exactly.
honestly 35 years of trying to be perfect, getting
Mm.
grade A's, getting a distinction, getting a first class honours degree. Yeah, great. But I made myself really ill in the process and it just wasn't
Mhm.
worth it.
Mhm.
It wasn't
Mhm.
worth it. So
It is very true because one of the issues is that one of my students came to me today and I said to her, "Where's my essay?" But miss, I didn't do it because it's not quite right. I said, that's the problem.
okay.
Because you see, waiting to get it perfect, it's not working. Just start it and give it to me. You see,
Mm.
because in the process of you trying to get it perfect, you're not doing as much as you should. And in the process, you're becoming ill because it's not being done and it's stressing you. It's like a
Yeah.
vicious cycle.
Yeah. They call
And I
it,
said,
don't they call it analysis paralysis? You
it is,
analyze.
yes.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It is very much so because I said to my student, I said, on Monday, give me that essay. I don't care what you've done. Because when you've actually give me that piece, it's going to be so empowering for you because you've done one piece and therefore you know how you can rectify it.
Yeah.
But when you're waiting to start because you want it to be perfect, you are becoming ill in the process because you're just going wrong and getting more information because you want it to be perfect.
Exactly. Yeah. It's difficult, isn't it? So
It is.
the next question, Debbie, that you asked me was, is homeschooling, home education more powerful than traditional education in preparing
Yes.
young people to navigate the real world? I thought that was a
Yes.
really good question. So I have to say, yeah, definitely. I think homeschooling, because I like to call it life schooling. I know it's at
Mm.
home, but my daughter is, you know, once she's out of the school kind of schooling age, which I believe is 18 now, because it was 16 when I went to school. Um,
Mhm.
I just think that she's gonna, you know, she tinkers around trying to fix cars with her granddad. You know, she's
Mhm.
learning so much. I'm going to be teaching where she's going to be setting up like a little business at home. So she's going to be learning a profit and loss statement, how to run a website. And she's nearly 7. So as much as it's going to be just like a small steps, I feel
Yeah,
like what I'm able to teach her
yeah.
about not only the mistakes that I've made in my life, and obviously she'll go. I appreciate that she needs to make her own mistakes in her life, and she's going to go and do that, and probably make the same mistakes I made. And I have to
Mhm.
be there to help her, like
Yeah,
sift through it and
yeah.
process things. I just think that you know, it's a great way because we do have flexibility on timetable. You know, we start early and finish early. The subject areas she's very passionate about. Aeroplanes, so you know, it's just going on her points of interest. Like certain topics aren't forced on her.
Mhm.
Um, I can teach her critical thinking. You know, these are
Mhm.
all things that are taught in school, and I don't want to diss schools or the school system at all because I went through it and had a fantastic experience. But it's
Mhm.
different now. You know, this was
Yes.
20. Oh my God, 30. God, you know, a long time ago. I was in school, so you know, I'm trying to take it at her pace, but also my daughter needs a lot of reassurance. So
Mhm.
it's, as I say, it's a few tears, lots of cuddles, lots of talks. And I also try to relate and I say, you know, when I was a little girl, I
Mhm.
really struggled. Like I found this so hard. And when I talk to her about being a little girl, she really listens. And she goes, oh,
Mhm.
so when you were little, you found this really hard as well. And I go, yeah, I found this
Mhm.
really hard. In fact, I think you're much more ahead. You know, she's actually much more ahead than I was at this age, when it comes to what she knows, especially in her reading. She's a lot more fluent in her reading than I was at this age. But that's because I make a really big effort to sit and, you know, read with her, and I have done all her
Mhm.
life. Whereas my parents didn't do that so much. And I'm not saying anything bad about my parents. It's just it just wasn't a thing back then. I don't
Yeah, it
think.
was a different generation,
Yeah, it's completely different. Yeah, I don't think they even said you should sit and read with your children. You know, it just wasn't a thing. It was done in
Exactly.
school.
Exactly.
But I'll be
Exactly.
honest, I was saying to a friend the other day, I said I couldn't read fluently. When I say fluently, I mean confidently till I was 16.
Mm,
So
mm,
and I have no shame in saying that, but I couldn't. I would read a line and I would not understand what I've read, so I'd have to read it
mm,
3 or 4
mm,
times, and it
mm.
transpired that I have like a problem with my eyes.
Oh,
So
wow.
so I didn't realize that this was actually a problem that I was facing. But yeah, it's
Mm,
just really, really fascinating. So yeah, I would say that homeschooling is more powerful than a traditional education because, as you said before, I know my daughter and I know what she needs,
mm, mm,
and I can cater to that. And the other thing is, I only have one child, so
mm,
I don't have anyone else to really think about.
mm, mm, mm. Yeah, that's very, very true because the fact is one to one, or even though you had more than one, it's still fewer than what we have in the classroom,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know, and is able to identify what they need at that time to support it. Even though I identify what the students need in the classroom, I may not be able to support it.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we spoke to her teacher, the teacher said, we don't understand why she's not able to add two numbers together. And I just thought to myself, but isn't that your job to find a way to figure out how her brain's working and then help her to understand that 2 + 3 is 5? Um,
Mm,
maybe she doesn't know what two means, you
mm,
know? Like, I
mm,
don't know. Maybe obviously we've
mm,
done stuff with her at home, but how I don't know. It was all very confusing, and as much as I try to do stuff with the teacher, I just don't felt that I got that right level of support back.
mhm,
But how
mhm,
much more can they do for me? They would just say she can't add.
mm.
So
Exactly, isn't it?
yeah, and we don't understand why. And I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe she has special educational needs. Let's talk about it. But it was
Mm,
not taken further. And I thought, well, she's going to be 7 soon, so we need to do something soon.
mhm,
Like
mhm,
let's talk about what the next steps are and how we can support her because she will just lose interest.
mm.
She'll
It
just
is
lose.
very true.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Especially when things start becoming challenging for her and she's not getting anyway. What's the
yeah.
point of even trying?
She's going to
Yeah.
switch off. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I would if there's a topic, for example, a lecture, and I've lost the thread. I'm
Mhm,
literally sat there panicking, going, "Oh my God, I don't understand what he's saying. I've completely lost
mhm,
him." And I
mhm,
remember doing that even at university, thinking, "I totally do not know what he's talking about now because I lost him 5 minutes ago."
mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, it's not
yeah.
easy. And for her to go, "Miss, I don't understand," she's not going to do that. So
Exactly, exactly,
yeah,
exactly, exactly.
this is it. It's
Right.
difficult. So the next question you asked me is, does homeschooling, home education equip young people with the necessary skills that they need to have for employment?
Mm.
I thought this was also, I hope you don't mind, I'm like reading the
No, no,
questions.
no, that's fine.
Is that
That's fine.
okay?
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. That's fine.
So I said, yeah, absolutely. I think homeschooling really does because if you think about what an employer wants creativity, people who are really good at listening, people who are really good at problem
Mhm,
solving, negotiation, teamwork, perseverance, organization, leadership, all these fantastic, qualities that we need to have when we go into employment. But
mhm,
I personally think that as a person who does homeschooling, you could potentially, I could potentially write to a restaurant, for example, and say, can my daughter come and work in your establishment for 2 weeks? Obviously for free, so that she can
mhm,
get an understanding of how a restaurant works. And then I can say, send her to a lawyer's office or send her to a receptionist or something and get her to go and work in different areas. And I don't think
mhm,
you really have that flexibility to do that in a school setting. I
mhm,
know
mhm.
you can do it for 2 weeks in a school setting, I believe, because I did it for 2 weeks. It was work experience.
Yeah, yeah,
When did I do it? How old was I? I think I was 16. I did it for two
yeah,
weeks.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
10,
but
11,
yeah, I
yeah.
think having skills for employment, I don't think there's any less that you can learn from being in a traditional school than being in a homeschool. I think it's probably more, I mean, for me, I want to teach my daughter listening skills. This is something that I think we don't teach in school, is actually how to actively listen to people. Yeah, they're just some really basic things that we really lack. And again, I'm not poo-pooing the school system, because I went through it and I had a great experience. I just want to keep on reiterating that. But yeah, there are a few really key things, really, really important things that we need to teach our children. And one of them is listening, actually how to listen.
Yep. I so agree with you there, because that's something that don't, some of the skills that are not taught in school is critical thinking, listening skills, budgeting, finance. Unless you're doing those subject area, you don't get taught those basic. How to fill in application form. And those things are so basic for them in terms of skills needed, that a lot of them, when they go out of school, we taught the basic skill, they don't know what to do. A lot of them don't know how to go and open a bank account, because that's not being taught at school.
So I mean, that is pretty basic, isn't it? And I think, I don't know, is that the responsibility of the school or the responsibility of the parent? Because there's such a fine line, isn't there? Because my mum taught me how to open a bank account, and she taught me about saving, and she taught me all these things. But I'm really lucky I had a really, financially savvy mum who was able to sit me down and talk to me about, you got £5, make sure you save 2 of those pounds, always save, always keep saving, because you never know what's going to happen on a rainy day, or you need something. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's a difficult one for teachers, because there is a fine line between what parents need to teach and what teachers need to teach. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, if we in the education system are meant to prepare them for the capitalist society, the world of work, that is also part of the world of work. Right. So therefore, that is part of the skill we need to teach them, because some of the skills I feel we're teaching them in terms of the curriculum, it doesn't make sense. It's so outdated. It doesn't make sense, because the basic things you hear organizations are saying, the students don't have it. Like basic listening skills, basic critical thinkers, they haven't got it.
Absolutely.
They're like robots.
Yeah, that's sad, isn't it? That is really sad. We need. I don't know. I think with critical thinking, it's definitely a skill for sure to be taught. And the other thing is like debating, like having healthy debates, because I know in the US they have like debating competitions, and it's like there's specific modules that you can take, but we don't have a culture of debating in the UK. I don't know. It probably is a thing now. I'm not sure, but I don't like even basic things like how to have an argument. Like you're going to have arguments in your life, but how can you have a productive argument where both people feel listened to and you are able to come to a mutual conclusion and move forward with your life? They don't teach you how to have an argument, and this is actually a very important skill. I've written a list of things here. I mean, you've written some really great suggestions for things that things like regulating your emotions, dealing with abusive relationships, money management, how to deal with failures, making mistakes, and these kinds of things, setting boundaries, stress management. And I also wrote another list, which is mindfulness, nutrition, office politics, because that's one thing that I went into the workplace not understanding office politics and totally just being completely blown away by the way that people were behaving in a professional environment. How to take a healthy level of risk, because if you are never going to get out of your comfort zone, they call it the comfort crisis. You need to be able to assess a situation and to be able to take a healthy level of risk, for example, in an investment, if you think it's going to be lucrative, these kinds of, buying a car, planning your retirement, grief, we're going to lose people in our life. Our hearts are going to get broken. This is another thing. I'd said to my husband, I was like, they don't teach you how to get over a broken heart. Because everyone's heart is going to be broken in one way or another, but nobody teaches you. But kids and people might drink, take drugs just to kind of numb that pain away, when actually they say feel it to heal it, and actually that's just my 2 cents. You've got to cry. You have to have a good old cry and feel really rotten and really hurt and get over it. You know, that's a very simplistic form, but nobody teaches you that.
Exactly.
Nobody teaches you how to grieve when you've lost somebody, somebody's passed away, how to do your taxes, you know, how to look after your back and your shoulders and your neck, because I've had like chronic pain issues all my life because I've been sat over a laptop working. And the other thing when it comes to women's health, which is something I'm quite passionate about, is looking after your pelvic floor and the menopause. So, you know, they didn't teach us this stuff at school. It's really important that we know as women and as females that there is another part to being a woman, which is your transition out of having, you know, like a monthly cycle. Sorry to get too much onto that topic, but yeah, people don't talk about this stuff and we need to start talking more.
It is very true. Thank you so much. That is so very true. And especially in terms of, you know, a lot of young people, it's like they have blinkers on. They don't, when it comes to menstrual cycle, they don't know those, they don't even know how to look after their bodies. They don't know that, because as a system, we should be teaching them that, because I feel those are some of the things they need to know, because they need to know what to do with the emotion, what to do with the anger. Because what I'm having in one of my class right now is, you know, in terms of negotiating the atmosphere in the class, because I inherited a class where the students are still storming. At this, they've been together for, I think one of them said to me, 4 years. They should be norming and performing now, but they're still storming. When telling they're storming so badly that I don't think they'll be able to perform as a group, because they don't know how to deal with emotion. They don't know how to regulate their emotion. They don't know how to deal with their anger. They don't know how to deal with their frustration, because nobody have taught them that. And I'm coming in now and trying to teach them that, but it's not working, because they've already so programmed that trying to deprogram them, I don't have the amount of time to do that, because they soon leave me by the end of June, May, June. You know, so if that was taught throughout the academic year, which means that they'll know how to regulate the changes that are taking place. And they'll be able to do it independent of themselves. But they're not able to do anything now, because they don't know what to do. Because that class, as I said, they're still storming. When telling you storming, they're storming badly. You're going to think that that group have only just got together. And one of them said to me yesterday, Miss, I don't like this one. I don't like this. I said, hold on. So who do you like in your class? Miss, probably it's only 3 people I like. Oh my goodness, this is heavy. I want you to process that and come back to me tomorrow. Because it's like the I don't like, because that student is very negative. And then the list goes on, because they don't know how to express it in the classroom, that your behavior is now affecting the rest of the class. So we need to deal with it. They don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, you know, and as you and I know that home education gives you that flexibility and enable the children to deal with it and talk about it. But in the school, in the classroom, they're not able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've also, you know, I feel that I try to always make sure that my daughter has connections with other adults, so that so we're not always going to be like getting on. So if she's feeling really frustrated and she needs to just go and, you know, talk to someone else, that when maybe me and my husband are both bugging her, that she has that support network outside of us as a family, where she can go and say, oh, you know, mum's so annoying, and she can actually like talk about it, process it, have a cry. Because I don't cry. I stopped crying many years ago, and I feel that I need to start crying, because it's actually a really good way of processing, you know, what you're going through. And I think because I'm such a creative person, and I actually teach adults arts and crafts as a way of therapy. With all the that's actually my profession. Before I started home educating, my daughter was actually teaching adults the therapeutic kind of benefits of arts and crafts. I've noticed with huge cuts in, you know, all the creative outlets for young people now, so the arts basically, there's very little budget for them to be able to, you know, to be able to express themselves. As you say, it's rage. There's so much rage in our young people these days. And I think that arts, you know, be it drama or dance or painting or whatever other form of expression they want to take, can really help young people. But there's just no, you know, if you sometimes you can't put into words how you're feeling, but you can draw how you're feeling, or you can dance the way you're feeling. But we are just so, our young people are so unable to do that. It makes me so incredibly sad. And now I'm working with adults who are so much older, who have not been able to let all of that expression, all of those feelings out, because they just couldn't find the words. Yeah, it's so difficult. I don't know how you manage. It must be, you know, as I say, you're a teacher, you're a counsellor, you're a parent, probably, you know, offering them a shoulder to cry on. It's incredibly difficult. But yeah,
you're everything. You wear so many hats in one day. You might be, you know, you might wear about 10 hats. It's like yesterday, I just felt as if I was just changing hats. You know, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And then I haven't used the hat as a teacher yet. You know?
Oh, okay, yeah. You haven't got to the bit that you actually need to do. Yeah.
Exactly. Because there's so many things you're trying to navigate with them.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just challenging. What's the other question that you have on your list?
That was the last of your questions.
Okay.
Did you have any more questions for me?
Yes, I've got one of the, if someone now say that after all of that, they still want to home educate, but they feel a little bit anxious about it, what 3 tips would you give them to enable them to say, okay, well, I think I will, or I can?
Yeah. So 3 tips. I hadn't actually, this is quite, I think having confidence in yourself as a human being, and knowing that you don't have to be a teacher, you know, as we said before we came live, is that you don't actually have to be a teacher to homeschool. As long as you have a great, you know, even actually I found homeschooling my child has made our relationship much better. So if your relationship with your child is fractured as a result of being at school, and their mental health might have suffered, know that you don't have to be a teacher to be a homeschool teacher. Your local authority is generally very supportive. When we deregistered my daughter, they sent us a beautiful pack of information with all these links to all these resources, and so that we can be in touch anytime if we needed any support. It does depend on your local authority though. So we're in Reading, and they're really good here. And I would say the third one is that you get to spend so much more time with your child. And as I say, if the relationship is fractured because of stress and mental health issues, having that additional time and that closeness and rebuilding that bond with your child just from being with each other actually really will draw you a lot closer, and then you can then motivate them in other ways to learn things that they want to learn. So I hope that makes sense. Is that kind of helpful or not?
Yes. No. It does. Because one of the things is, you know, a lot of people don't see the benefit of having to spend a lot of time with the children. And, you know, as you rightly say, you get to know them a lot more than you ever did. And, you know, it could also be a very beautiful thing, because you are then able to identify some of the challenges they were having while they were at school, because you never had the opportunity to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, when my daughter was coming home from school, she was shattered. Like, I was getting the worst bits of her. She was kicking off. She wasn't eating her dinner. I don't think she was sleeping very well. And then she would play up in the morning again to go back into school. So I was always seeing the worst of her. And then weekends were just, she was just shattered all the time. But now she's at home with me. She's fresh in the morning. We start the day. It's smiles. Sometimes it's tears. But then the smiles again, and we have lunch together, and it was great because she's putting on weight because she has there was some issues with school with her eating, so she's putting on weight, and generally there's this much brighter, happier child, and I'm able to experience that, and I'm not missing, like she'll wake up one morning, and we had like a plumbing problem the other day, and this pipe had burst basically in our house on the ground floor. And she could see I was really upset because I was like, oh my God, like, what are we going to do? And she said, it's okay, Mummy. These things are unpredictable, but we'll get through it. And I was like, okay, and I just thought, oh my God, like, number one, where did she get that from? I have no idea. But it was the right context, the right time. It was really reassuring, and I thought, oh, thank you, that's really lovely, and yeah, we will get through it. It's only a burst pipe, it doesn't matter, we're safe, and it doesn't, but yeah, they really do, they surprise you, and she has surprised me no end. It's incredible.
Thank you. You said something earlier on that you get your daughter to mix with older people. How do you do that? How do you ensure that her social development is still being taken care of?
Sure. So when I first said to my husband we were going to take her out, that was one of the concerns, was that he was very worried about her social development because she is an only child as well. So she's practically all on her own. But I reached out to some of the local home education groups on Facebook. So if you just type in home education and then Berkshire or home education, wherever you are, Manchester or whichever area you're in, you will find a lot of home educating families. And if you kind of just post up and say, hi, I'm new to home educating, I have a 6-year-old girl, you'll find that there's actually a lot of home educating families that are on these groups, and they're usually very flexible, and they're like, oh, do you want to meet up in the park? Do you want to come over for a play date? Do you want to, do this? So my daughter has lots of play dates, where there's no real structure. I just kind of let her play, which is totally great for me because she is an only child, so she doesn't really have that opportunity. And then she has swimming, gymnastics, Rainbows Club. On Thursdays we have like a social meetup where it's a parent-led group where there's lots of other home educators. So yeah, if you reach out on Facebook, I'd have to say that's probably the best place to reach out to other home educating families. But it is a concern for a lot of people. And because I have an only child, a lot of people were quite worried about my daughter. But we've had no issues, and she's perfectly happy. And she's still in touch with some of her old friends from school, so we call them for play dates as well. Yeah, so it's pretty busy. It's pretty hectic, if I'm honest. Yeah. She has a busier social calendar than I do.
Sounds like it. Oh wow, that's brilliant. Have you got anything else you want to say to us before we round up?
I think all I'd like to say is if you feel in your heart that and you have the opportunity to be able to take your kids out even for a year, like I had said to my husband, just give it to me for a year, and I promise you'll see like a huge you just see a huge change in her. And I think just when it comes to really basic things like confidence, ability to elaborate her ideas in English, nothing hard set academically, but just her confidence. I'd say take your kids out of school and see how it goes, because they really do surprise you. And I think I've surprised myself as well, because as I say, I'm not a qualified teacher. I do teach adults. Children is not my teaching kids is not my speciality, but I really love spending time with her, and I don't regret my decision one bit.
Thank you for that. It is so true, because so far I've interviewed a lot of home educators, homeschoolers, and none of them said that they had any regrets.
Yeah.
It's like some say, they should have done it before, and it's like all of that, because they've seen the benefit of, catering to your child's need, and then seeing the development of that child as a result of you catering for the needs. So as a result of that, he also make you realize that how the education system is not filling that gap which your child needs and your child has.
Yeah.
You know, it's not to say that we're bashing the education system. We're being real about it, because every child has a gap, but the education system doesn't necessarily have the ability or the capability to plug that gap.
That's right. Yeah. I couldn't possibly imagine trying to individually cater to 30 children. And as you said, it's going to be the children who are most disruptive that get the most attention. And my child is not a disruptive. She's the quiet little girl who sits happily in the back, but she won't be learning anything. And my fear was that she'll get lost in the system, basically. Yeah, that was my fear.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And it is so true, because some of these children who are not, according to some teacher who is not who are not appearing on the radar, get left behind because they're not disruptive. It's interesting. I'm going to talk about that just now on my Facebook Live, but this is what actually came up while we were talking, that I realized I am doing some of my students a disservice, because the ones that is getting my attention are the most disruptive one. The attention they're getting is not the academic attention, it's the attention of stop talking and behave yourself, etc., etc. And as a result of that, the rest of the class isn't getting anything. Because the time I finish with telling this group of students to behave and stop talking and listen up and stop rocking the chair and stop throwing things across the class, I'm too tired.
Yeah.
It's actually dawned on me today. And when I go in on Monday, I have to do something different. I'm not too sure yet, but I have to, because I am spending a lot of my time disciplined. As I said to my group today, I seem to spend a lot of time disciplining you guys. I don't have time for that. We have too many things to get on with. And it is so very true, because that's why when teachers say to us is, your child is not on my radar. So therefore, the quieter the child, the less attention the child gets.
Yeah.
It's quite, it makes me sad. It's quite sad. The education system is sad. It's very
sad. But I think it's, I don't blame yourself, because you have so much to think about. It's not easy, is it? It's going to be difficult.
Yeah, but it's still sad, because it's like, you know, I could actually see that, because I even said to students, I said, do you realize that the male take up so much of the teacher's time? And I said that in all the schools I go to, because it happens. And, you know, being conscious of it and realize that you have to take back your class, that sometimes you're able to take it back quicker than other times. Other times you might spend most of the lesson trying just so that you could teach a little.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So parents out there, if you want your child to learn and learn well, right? I am supporting you guys in terms of taking your children or your child out of the education system if you can, because it means that you'll be supporting your child's need and you will be giving your child what he or she needs. In the education system, we can't do it. Sometimes we have so many disruptions. We spend at least half of that lesson disciplining the class or classroom management. And it doesn't always help, you know. But anyway, anything else you want to say?
No, thank you, Debbie. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much for accepting the offer, so you could share your journey with us, so we could actually see, you know, what different journeys homeschool and home educators are having. And as they all say, it is not all roses. No. It's like within the education system itself, it's not all roses. There's some days we as teachers, we have fantastic days. There are other days you're thinking, oh my goodness, what's happening here? Right? It's the same thing with home education. As Nadia said, there's some days she have fantastic days, and some days she say, you know what? Let's forget about doing homeschooling today. Let's go for a walk. She have that choice. We don't. within the education system. So parents, you need to exercise your right and your choice for your children. Education, the traditional education may not always be the answer for your children or your child. Listen to what your child needs and follow that if you can. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for listening. And if any of you out there want to come and share your journey with us, feel free. Meet me up on Facebook or Instagram, on all the platforms, and come and share your journey, because there'll be someone that would definitely be learning from your journey, because homeschool education is on the increase, and it actually supports you in terms of going on this journey, and it works. It helps your child. You're supporting your child. Anyway, guys, take care, stay blessed, have a fantastic evening, night, morning where you are. And I'll see you guys tomorrow evening when I'm talking about Female Educators Roundtable, talking to teachers about their journey before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID. After COVID, oh my goodness, we having all sorts of issues going on in the school. Mental health is all over the place. So tomorrow evening, join me so we could discuss some of the challenge and the triumph of being educator. Take care, guys. Stay blessed.